For 216,000 for 25.
Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from anybody else? We're good?
I'm just wondering what the seniors are gonna do without their vehicle.
We bought two new buses, two new senior vans,
We're so silly.
using ARPA money and donations from the public sector.
Should ask that question
Park
first.
and Don Sonnen and a lot of other good people who chipped in. You're welcome. Okay. Thank you very much, Chief. Now we have Chief Nightel and the police. That sounds like a band.
Supervisor, you would not want to hear me sing, so.
No, we don't want we don't want that.
All right, very good. First of all, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to lead this department. I think our department, the building blocks of our department start with integrity, professionalism, and community service. That's what we're built on, and that's what this budget is built on. Our expectation, we set the bar high, and what we try to do with every interaction with our residents and with our visitors is to exceed the expectations of those that we serve. To start, if we go to the next slide, please, is our 2025 recommended organizational chart. The sworn officers currently, 2024, we're at 31 officers. My recommendation is that we add one sworn officer. Dispatch center will remain the same. In the area of also in patrol, we would upgrade one officer position from a police officer to a police sergeant. Currently, there are a lot of myths out there about how many police cars are driving around the town. We have one sergeant. We're on 12-hour shifts. We have one sergeant and 4 officers on each shift. When a police sergeant has training, calls in sick, or has vacation, we have no supervision on the road. We have had incidents, very serious incidents in the township when we have not had supervisors on the road. I live in the township. I respond very quickly. One of those incidents included a barricaded gunman on Sheldon Road. I was the first supervisor to arrive at the scene. We did not have a supervisor working that night because the supervisor was off. Putting on my Gordon Graham hat, the biggest liability for police departments is failure to train, failure to supervise. If we don't have supervisors out in the street, that's fairly easy to check that box. So we need supervisors out there. My recommendation by moving one officer position up to a sergeant is that we would have a sergeant on the midnight shift that would be a swing sergeant. So that sergeant would fill in when we have sergeants take the night off, they're on extended vacation, or have training. So they would fill in there. Similar departments in the area, Northfield Township has a lieutenant and a sergeant on each of their 4 shifts. My recommendation is to have that one police officer move to sergeant. During the day shift, we don't have complete coverage, but myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, Sergeant Hoffman, and our detective bureau can fill in if we need it during the days. On the weekends, again, on our day shift, we have situations where we don't have a supervisor working, so one of us would have to respond on those scenes. Those 2 positions. In the clerical area, I have a recommendation to add one administrative assistant. We do not have any administrative assistants in the building. Administrative assistant, in particular, this position, would be to supplement, to let the police officers do police work. So myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, as well as our supervisor, our director in dispatch, this position would assume responsibilities, to include our HR work, which much of that is sensitive, collaborating with HR, MMRMA, paperwork, processes that go through for anything with our insurance. We have issues right now in our detective bureau with data collection, storage, administrative. We have community outreach projects, IT, storage, and information on accreditation and administration. So those are the positions. If we could go to the next slide, that's the current organizational chart. Yes, sir.
What is the assumption you have for wages and benefits for the administrative assistant?
The assumption
Total, is it
we have it on there,
100,000?
60 for that one position.
65,000.
65,000.
Benefits?
No, not including benefits.
Okay.
All right. Next slide, please. The CMV, Commercial Motor Vehicle and Traffic Enforcement Officer. Of my 2.5 years as police chief here, I would estimate that 80%, and that's a fair estimate, of the complaints that come in are about truck traffic. Truck traffic, as many of us live in the township, is something that has increased over the years. Commercial Motor Vehicle Officer, we request from Wayne County, they have one CMV vehicle for the entire county, so they do come out. MSP doesn't come out, but it's very occasionally. This recommendation would be this officer's full-time commitment would be commercial motor vehicle and traffic enforcement. So be enforcing of Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act and to address citizen complaints regarding truck traffic within the township, enforce the state and county route, size, and weight restriction on the truck. The issues we're having with a lot of our streets, unfortunately, is we have a lot of trucks out there that are overweight. And not only that, spitting rocks up into our vehicles and things like that. One of the areas that I'm particularly interested in for this officer is to collect the data, where these trucks are coming from and where are they going to. Do they have business in Plymouth Township, or are they just passing through? These trucks and these trucking companies know where commercial motor vehicles are and where they're not, and they certainly try to avoid those areas, and that would certainly be a deterrent. Would assist citizen complaints regarding traffic control issues within the township. This officer would be a member of the Western Wayne Accident Crash Response Team. Now that team is a collaboration of, I believe, 8 different agencies in Western Wayne County. So if you have a serious accident or a fatality, that unit would come out. We've utilized that unit, I believe, at least 3 times in the last year and a half that they've come out to Plymouth Township. We would also respond to assist agencies like Redford Township. We've went out to assist Romulus, Garden City. They are all part of that unit. This officer would be involved with that. They would investigate fatal and serious accidents that happen within the township and coordinate all accidents in the township and review them. Our officers, different from other departments that have traffic bureaus that overlook their accident reports and how they're investigating accidents, this officer would overlook that. Coordinate community outreach programs and safety presentations to township residents. And when I think of this, I think of baby seats in cars, having training to show folks exactly how to make sure that their baby seats are put in the right way, as well as traffic distracted driving and using their seatbelts for our younger drivers. The revenue stream, this would be a byproduct of this position, but there is a potential revenue stream to offset. We have annual court costs currently that we pay. My recommendation would be that any costs that go over to the court, 35th District Court, would be utilized and reduce the amount of money that we pay the court through these fines. So I've met with representatives from the 35th District Court. Northville Township has a program, Canton has a program, very successful, and also are able to cut into those costs.
So Chief, that money does not go to the library system?
No, there is, it depends on what kind of ticket it is, but 70% of for example, the way tickets, that all comes back to the municipality, excuse me. Okay. But yeah, so it depends on what type of ticket it is, but yes, sir.
I would think our closest collaboration should be with Northville Township, especially on Beck and Ridge, et cetera. So what kind of outreach have you had with them so far on the truck?
So we've had 2 of our officers. One of our officers has already had a great deal of the training, and one of those officers was already, when they have time, when we're fully shifted, has written several of those violations. We have ridden along with Northville Township, spent time with them on traffic stops to get an idea exactly how they're doing that. So we have a very close working relationship with them right now. Their corridor on 5 Mile is very similar to our corridor on 5 Mile in Ridge, and the area is North Territorial. Also in this area, there's a young lady that lives right across the street here on Haggerty, and Officer Fetter, who is our trained officer, every time he's out there stopping a truck, she's clapping. And she's giving them a thumbs up. So I've seen that with my own eyes. So very nice lady, and she's appreciative of what's going on. A lot of these, when we're making these stops, a lot of the truck drivers don't even realize that they're not supposed to be on Haggerty Road. So that's another, we can educate these drivers and let them know where they can be and where they can't be.
Okay.
Any more questions on that? Go ahead, Chuck.
What is the total cost to outfit that? You've got equipment to buy, training, and you've got to hire a person to backfill, right?
Yeah. So I'm only looking in this budget for the one officer position. The training, we've already funded
Expended
the
that?
training. We have the equipment. Now, I don't have a truck right now, so we're gonna have to utilize a police car. I didn't put that in the budget. Certainly Northville Township has a pickup truck that's a CMV vehicle. I think depending on the success of the program, that's certainly something we could look at down the road. Yeah.
Will this person be available to do road patrol if we have some high absenteeism? In other words, will they be able to be deployed in a different, on an as-needed basis? A
Yeah,
different
my-
role?
my
In
expecta-
other words, it's not my job, I don't do that road patrol kind of
Yeah.
thing? Or is it going to be, yes, sir, where I'm needed?
Yeah. So the supervisor makes fun of me sometimes and calls me Batman, but myself, the assistant chief, the lieutenant, when we have hot runs, everybody's going. And this position will be no different. They will take runs. If they're close, if they're the closest car, they'll take runs. They are police officers first and foremost. They will do police work when needed. And again, if we're short and then we have to need a supplemental shift, we'll do that. The other expectation is we're gonna be asking a lot for this officer because we have OWI details, we have safety belt details, we have distracted driving details. These truck drivers, when they figure out what the hours are, right, they're gonna try to drive around. Maybe they'll try to drive on Saturdays, Sundays. So they're gonna have to be asked to work all different shifts. So this shift is not gonna be a set shift. They're gonna be moved around depending on the need and depending on what we have going on in the community.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? No?
Very good. I kind of jumped ahead of myself with upgrading the officer position to the sergeant position. Again, this is something that we are one of the very, very few communities that do not have supervisors working on every single shift. Other chiefs that I speak with, kind of roll their eyes when I talk about this, but this is definitely an issue that I think we need to fix. This is something, since I've been here in the last 2.5 years, that has been a priority, and that's why I put it in there. The administrative assistant position, I went through the different roles in that position. Again, the goal with that position is to let the police officers do police work and have the administrative assistant handle the areas that we can do that. We don't have a person to handle all of our vehicle, all the paperwork that go with the vehicle. That would be another area that would be handled. It'd be things like that. And
Talking about maintenance?
not
records?
maintenance, but just handling the paperwork and the processing. When I first got here, we had issues with the oil changes. So, things like that, maintaining to make sure that the vehicles are, in a lot of that is paperwork and keeping track of what goes on with that. During accreditation, a lot of departments have accreditation managers. That's their only job. Accreditation, a lot of parts about that are administrative duties, so.
Okay.
So how many people are we hiring? Let's go through them. Incremental.
Incrementally, one commercial motor vehicle officer
Okay,
would be my recommendation. One,
So
When I-
you're hiring from within though? Like you're
No.
gonna test
Well, we would be
the
add-
officer?
my recommendation is to add a spot. This position would not be a rookie officer, though, no. So it would be,
More time, you would
Yeah,
hire
so-
a sergeant from outside of the department?
no, we would be adding a position, so it'd be another officer position,
Sure, and
but
then that one from
the recommendation would be a senior officer that would take that role, but we would backfill with a younger officer or a lateral transfer, depending on what we're able to get.
so from outside Plymouth Township, you have to find one incremental head. Is that what you're gonna do? You'll add
Correct.
one head.
Yeah, one for the police officer position.
And one for
from
the
outside.
administrative assistant.
Administrative assistant. And then we have an existing police officer that I would move that position and make that a sergeant position.
Right, but that's not hiring someone.
No, that's not. So it's correct, Chuck.
That would be a pay increase.
Correct. Yes, it would.
It's a promotion.
Promotion, yes, it would, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next slide. This is our pie chart for the 2025 Police Department general budget, $6,940,600. Three, the green, the blue, and the dark blue represent over 85% of the overall police general budget, which is tied into employees' contractual obligations. Our contracts with POM and COM were settled this year, so those numbers are all plugged in there.
So the retirement benefits include both the defined contribution and the defined benefit plans?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yes.
And then retired officers' medical is not in this, it's in a different pot, or is it in there? It's in here? Which one would be under the blue?
Insurance benefits.
Dark blue.
The dark blue?
Yes, sir.
Because allegedly, retirement medical is going up 15% beginning January? Is that what you're assuming? That's a big jump.
I don't think it was.
The other one, the active employees, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5. But for some reason, I think that there was a big increase in January.
I believe the Medicare,
41%.
Pardon?
I heard 41%.
41%, that's due to changes in federal law. When we talk about free prescription drugs and reduced costs for prescription drugs, ultimately, the employer has to pay for that.
So did you use the word 41?
41%.
That's astronomical. Okay, so is that in that number?
Yep.
Yes.
The 41% increase?
It may not quite be all there because we just got word of that increase after we had put all the numbers in. We did budget for some amount of increase, but it may need to be adjusted once everything kind of flows through and, we see everything. I literally just got the information from HR 2 days ago.
So the premium, if it was $100 this year, is now going to be $141.
That's my understanding. Yeah. I'd have to
100 a month
look through and work through
to
the calculations.
$141. That's huge.
Yeah, that's the federal government's mandate on employers. So when you talk about free prescription drugs, it's not free. It's your boss is paying for it. Okay.
Okay, we're good. Next slide. Police Department purchases. Recommendation is that we have add 3 Ford Interceptor utility patrol cars, Axon body-worn cameras and in-car cameras. We've spread this out over 5 years. It would be a 5-year lease. This is a program. We are end of life, both on our body cameras and our in-car cameras. Lieutenant Krebs did extensive research. We looked at 5 different companies and felt that Axon was the best for us. Livonia Police Department switching to Axon. Many of the top agencies around are going to Axon. It has a lot of familiarity with, for example, our tasers and other pieces of equipment. So that's the second. Radar speed trailer. This is a program that is very, very successful and very wanted in our community. We have 2 right now. As I mentioned at the last meeting, one of them was struck by a OWI driver, and we got the insurance on that. That's been replaced. We are about 2 to 3 weeks behind, maybe even a month on the request. So by adding this 3rd trailer, we'd be able to put them out in 3 different locations within the township. The comment I always get from my friends in the community is, are you going to send me a ticket in the mail, Chief, or what's going on with this speed trailer? But I know Chuck and some of the other folks on the board, these speed trailers collect data on every single vehicle that goes by. And there's a very comprehensive report. Sergeant Fritz is in charge of the program. When we get contacted, he reports back to the citizen who asked for the speed trailer, and it lists exactly how fast the vehicles are going. And what we can do with that data is we can determine how bad is the issue there? How often do we have to have patrol cars there and make that a directed patrol area? Because that's what we do in these areas, make them directed patrol. The traffic data collector, this is going to be new for us. This would be a device that is hooked onto a sign or in the street. It's much more. So the speed trailers are right out there. Everybody sees them, right? And then you you see it, and then you slow down before you get into it. This device would be very, not, when I say hidden, stealth. Thank you, Chuck. That's the word I was looking for. Very stealth. It would be put up. It collects the same type of data. pulls it in, and then we're able to track that area. It's movable, so we can move it to different areas throughout the township. So again, there'll be times when we utilize the speed trailers to be very obvious and to send a message, and there'll be other times that we'll put that, utilize that piece of equipment.
So a couple questions on those. We're not gathering license plate information, are we?
On those, no.
On any of these? Speed trailer or this camera?
No.
Are we gathering license
No
plate
video.
information?
No.
Are we gathering video? We're gathering photographs? Okay, I'm
No,
just,
this is tracking
I
speed.
get these questions all the time, so I just want that out there.
So is any of the, are we purchasing, apparently Northville has license plate readers. And a lot of, almost every community in southeast Michigan has it. If you've ever been to England, there are license plate readers and closed circuit TV everywhere. So what are we doing here?
They also arrest people for speaking their mind, too.
Right,
Don't
I
want to
agree.
be like
That's
England.
not apples and
Certainly not.
oranges.
So is any, well, license plate readers are they in here at all?
Yeah.
In any of the, are we buying any license plate readers?
This, we have, Dan, you want to hit on that section?
Yeah, so we have two items in the budget. One, there are two that are specific to LPR programs. One of them is a software program that we pay a membership fee for, and that allows us access to everybody else's license plate cameras, which we have very successfully used to solve some fairly high-profile crimes here. We have another line item in the budget to purchase license plate readers if we so choose. Now, that item was in last year's budget too. We didn't end up doing it, but it's there in case we decide to.
So it's
do it.
not in this page, right?
It's not in this page, no.
So license plate readers, we'll have to talk about those.
And as far as license, and those are used where you have basically probable cause, is that fair statement? The license plate readers that Kudra's talking about?
Yeah, we're one of the only communities around that.
I understand, but to utilize that, it's not random. I mean, you have to have some element of probable cause, right?
The license plate readers, they collect data on folks that are going through
Okay.
the intersection. They're also hot sheets, so if a stolen vehicle, if we had license plate readers, for example, on all the entrance and the exit ramps, when a stolen vehicle entered the township, we would get a notification immediately. It would say a vehicle just got off southbound 275 to westbound, and we would get a picture of the plate.
Okay.
Farmington Hills, Southfield, we're Livonia. I talked to Chief Gralski last week. They are going to license plate readers. I think Northville Township, they have them, I think, approximately 30 of them that are out there. Farmington Hills has, I think, 45. My one chief's opinion, it's the future of law enforcement. I mean, the Dearborn Police Department, I believe, has had 5 solved homicides this year because of license plate readers. Farmington Hills just the other day had a missing 12-year-old, got off the freeway at Orchard Lake and 696, pinged on the information. The officers responded to the area, found the car, and recovered the juvenile. So there are a lot of my recommendation, would be to have a company like Flock come in and give a presentation so that folks understand everything about them. The Michigan State Police has them all up and down Southfield Road, so
Okay,
I don't know if that answered your question, Chuck.
very thoroughly, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this slide? here,
Yeah, just active shooter training, protective equipment. Every year we train with the Canton Police Department and the Plymouth Police Department. We did this year again in early August. We were at Hoban Elementary. We trained there for active assailant training. Part of that training is we try to make it as realistic as possible. So we have paintball equipment that we utilize. This is the protective wear to protect the officers when they're doing that training. This also, following COVID, is a best practice to have every officer have their own piece of equipment. The problem we have right now is when we go to this training, we have to borrow equipment from other police agencies. We don't, currently have our own. So, new mobile data, computers for the patrol cars. Again, this is end of life issue. We are requesting 11. Temporary stop signs. These are, for the storms. Some of ours didn't make it out of the last storm, so we had to replace them. So we're recommending 10 of those. rechargeable flashlights and carrying pouches. Some of the flashlights, when I got here, were at least 15 years old. There's technology, equipment. My recommendation is the one that I have on my belt right now is, to get those replaced. We're recommending 35 of those. And the last one on this slide would be data switches. This is for our police department server. This is a recommendation from Bob Jenks, our IT director.
How much does that add up to, that page? 500,000, or is it?
I could get you the number on that. That would be under capital outlay, which I think is
So this is the total.
433,000.
Pardon?
So capital outlay for the police department budget, I think is 433,000
Yep.
roughly.
It is.
So that's what that adds up to. Now, there might be some other small items in there that didn't.
Some of
make
this will
that.
be paid for with forfeiture funds, won't it?
None of these items.
The forfeiture budget will be done separately in a couple weeks. Because we have to, we can't, we have to segregate those funds.
I know.
Okay, and again, a lot of this is in your budgets. I provided you with the draft budgets last week, and this is all outlined in great detail. So if you have any questions, any granular questions like that, you can either reach out to the chief, myself, or Liz, or Carol, and they'll give you an answer.
All right, next slide. Thank you, sir. 2025 dispatch and jail combined budget, proposed budget, $1,844,400. Again, the dark blue, the light blue, and the brown colored are personnel under contracts. Under contracts, that would be 85% of the budget. And then we have 37,000 in capital outlay and just under 240,000 in operations, 13% of it.
This is including what the city gives us for dispatch?
So this is our overall budget.
That's what
The
I'm
city
saying.
pays a portion of this.
Inside of this is what we get from the city.
Yeah, it's based upon call volume. It usually ends up being around 33%.
Right, that's what I understood.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, any other questions on that slide? All right, dispatch jail equipment purchases. Dispatch console radio encryption software. We had a lean audit, and this was a lean recommendation to upgrade 3. The second is a computer-aided dispatch, a CAD, computer replacement. There's 3 there, and this is a Clemis requirement that was made by Clemis. The third, replacement monitors for the CAD workstation. We're requesting 2, so 2 of each of the 3 dispatch stations is nearing end of life and need those to get replaced. Television monitors for lockup and security camera monitors. We're requesting 2 additional television monitors. We are conducting more virtual patrols than we ever have before. We have cameras not only at the soccer park, we now have cameras that we're monitoring at Hilltop. We have cameras here at the township as well as our lockup. We are also working with the school district. The school district is going to give us access when there's incidents at the school. We can get into their video system and see what's going on real time as well. So that's the reason for those 2 new monitors.
Any of this available for MMRMA grants or anything like that?
So
We've been very successful in getting grants. Usually they're about $13,000, although now we understand that the MMRMA is tightening the rules on those grants. They've been pretty liberal in the past, but now the bar is being set a lot higher. Not that it's unattainable, but it's pretty much been free money for all the communities for the last several years, but they are starting to clamp down on that now.
And I would say every time MMRA sends us information on a grant, we look at it and determine if we're able to access it or not. Is that accurate, Assistant Chief?
Yeah, so the last information that I had from MMRMA was that they had suspended the RAP grant program. Now, that's temporary while they assess how much money they have to dole out. And then they're going to kind of revamp the different categories that you can apply for funding in. I don't have a date on when that program is going to come back or when that reboot is going to take effect. I would hope that it would be within the next year, and certainly, they're our insurance carrier. We have communication with them. I know I'm a first name basis with the RAP grant program coordinator. We communicate via email, and she will send me the updated guidelines when they do decide what those are going to look like. And then anything that we can apply a RAP grant to, we will. And we've been very successful in the past at getting those.
Okay,
All right, very good. This slide, the numbers, this is comparing 2024 to the 2025 recommendation. The total, 8.2 million. The recommended amount, 8.809, which is a 6.99% increase. From the forfeiture accounts, the 20,500 would be the taser lease agreements that we use forfeiture money to pay for. And then the bottom is our Dell computers. We lease our computers of 4,020 that we take from IRS annually.
Why such a small amount of spending from forfeiture 2024 versus 2025?
In the last couple of years, we have seen a decrease. We have a lot of, as I call them, irons in the fire for forfeiture, but we're not seeing the levels of forfeiture. So the strategy on that is to let the accounts build up a little bit more, and then we would get back, hopefully with more money coming in, get back. Traditionally, we've paid for our vehicles annually with the forfeiture money, and that's where we would want to get back to.
So the well is a little dry now.
It's a little dry currently. But I can tell you, like I said, I never want to make any promises, but we're involved in some very big investigations, both on the DEA side as well as the Homeland Security investigation side. So we're hopeful some of those cases will come to fruition and will bring in forfeiture dollars.
okay.
All right.
Is there another slide here?
Yes. Okay, this is a slide you haven't seen before, but I think it's very, very important. These are areas, and this goes back to the question about MMRMA. These are areas where we are, in our department, we don't have a grant writer. We don't have that man right over there, the assistant chief, and myself are the grant writers. So, and Sergeant Titterington. So, this was new for us. The Office of Highway Safety and Traffic Control, last year we got 18,000 from them. This year we have requested 11,000. One of the reasons for the decrease is because our staffing numbers have been down this year. We're still looking to hire 4 police officers. The overtime slots, because we have a lot of overtime due to sick calls and things like that, that we just weren't able to fill in and have officers for those overtime slots. So the reduction is down to $11,120. The second piece is the Public Act 2023. This will show in our budget, and this is the way we do it, a $30,000 increase in our training, but that's all money that we're going to get back. So the state is, they have some mandated training that our officers have to go through, but this year, last year was 14,000. Roughly. Yeah. And then this year, coming up, 2025, they're gonna be giving us $30,000 for training. The 911 training funds, traditionally, they're between $14,000 and $18,000 that the state of Michigan gives that for our dispatch center. That's money that we get out there and work. Extra duty overtime reimbursement. Last year, and traditionally, we average just over $10,000 a year of that comes in through, and those extra duties, our houses of worship will contract us to have police officers at various events, various masses, as well as businesses have contracted us. You know, if they're having an employee that's getting fired and they want an officer assigned there or something like that. So we have that. Task Force Officer overtime reimbursement. We have a position at DEA that we're locked into, I believe it's over 18,000 annually to cover overtime for our task force officer. So every month, overtime, we do some submittals, and then the money comes back. So with HSI, it's a little more hit and miss. It depends on funding with them. Traditionally, they've been between $6,000 and $9,000 that they reimburse the overtime as well. So, and then last is our ballistic vest reimbursement, where we put in a grant for that, and we get half of the cost of a vest. Any questions on that?
We have that in here. We wouldn't until we get a.
Okay, community outreach. For those of you who have been there, Coffee with a Cop, we do that quarterly. We move it around the township to various coffee shops. It's been very successful for us to get out in the community and get to know our community and find out what's going on. Our Senior Fraud and Exploitation Program, that's a program that we traditionally run at the Welcome Station. This last year, we've also held, we got a request from Our Lady of Good Counsel, one of their senior groups. We gave a presentation out there. Independence Village, we had about 60 that attended that. Tom Champagne runs that program. I believe it's very successful. In our stats last year, our overall frauds were down close to 35%. So we're hopeful that that program is contributing to that. Run, Hide, Fight, active assailant training. We are one of the few departments around that offers free training to our businesses and houses of worship. The training is about 45 minutes to an hour. We push that information out. Companies like Adient, some of the bigger companies in the township, and we have delivered that training too. So that is offered free of charge. We have a cadre of 5 officers that are trained, and it's basically run, hide, fight principles. Houses of Worship Committee meets twice a year. That committee is run by our school resource officer, specifically in the summer. That Houses of Worship Committee, we're constantly, we pushed out some information on Monday to that group. So we're constantly talking, the information goes out and the information comes back. So we're working with our houses of worship. One Pill Can Kill, opioid awareness. Some in this room have been to that training. That's offered by our DEA task force officer, who's Caitlin Nicely, and she does a great job with that. This year we plan also to target, continue to target our younger group, particularly our later high school and early college age students. Police Day at the Ballpark. This was an event that started with our No Shave November. Our officers every year are given the opportunity to donate to an organization. Last year and also it's a great partnership with us in the city of Plymouth. We raised over $2,500 last year. We made a donation to the Miracle League in Plymouth. And then we also came up with the idea to have Police Day at the Ballpark. We had over 30 members of our department, which would include my family was there, Chief Cox's family, officers, their kids, their wives, their husbands. Nobody was working. There was no overtime. This was our officers being out in the community with the Miracle League, giving back to the community. So I think it was just a fantastic event. And we had our community outreach tent out there. We had giveaways for the kids. All of us were out on the field and we were partnered up with the players. And it was just, I was out there. It was a fantastic experience. So that was something that we did in the community. On October 11th this year, and I'm going to send the board the information, we are going to have our second annual Faith in Blue event. This is an event that is kind of spurred out of our Houses of Worship Committee. And this will be at Northridge Church from 5 to 7 on October the 11th. We are going to have representatives from all the federal agencies, including FBI, DEA, ATF, you name it. Livonia Police Department is committed to have officers there, and it's going to be very similar to Touch Truck. If you have young kids, we would love to have them out there. It's a great experience for them to meet the officers, to talk to the officers. Our special operations team will be there. Our mobile field force team will be out there. So I'll send that information to the invitations for all our federal partners are out, and I'll send that invitation to the board. Our honor guard, we have one of the best honor guards, and I'll brag a little bit in the area. Our honor guard led earlier this summer in June. They had a ceremony for fallen officers at our state capitol, and our honor guard led all of the other honor guards in that parade to the Capitol. I was there, I saw them in action, and they are really phenomenal. So we're very proud of that. And again, we work so closely with the city of Plymouth. Again, that is a joint venture. For those who were able to make it on the 4th of July parade, I was there, got to see them. They led the parade in downtown Plymouth. And the last is March is Reading Month. So one of the things I told you a year ago is that we were going to be out in the schools and we were going to offer a police officer to come in and speak to any class in Plymouth Township. We had over 52 requests from teachers to come and speak. Myself, the assistant chief, our school resource officer, he managed this entire program. Many days we had 3 or 4 readings in a day, but it was a phenomenal opportunity for us to get out in the community. And again, we were out. For me, my children went to Red Bell. I got to go and speak to the kids at Red Bell. It was fantastic. So another great community outreach benefit. We participated in the Farron Fall Run. as well as the Ivywood Fall Run. We were out there, they had powder, they were throwing powder on us. We had myself as the older guy and 3 of the younger officers out there that ran with the kids, and it was really a great experience. Any questions on any of that?
Okay.
Thank you.
What do you mean they were throwing powder at you?
So, in the parents' way, it was interesting, but
what's the?
when you ran by the stations, they had, one was the pink station, they would throw powder. One was the-
Powdered donuts, you know.
Yeah, so the fall and the color of the leaves, you know, that was the whole premise, but, yeah, but it was great. It was great exercise. We got to run with the kids and be with the kids, and it was just fantastic. And I just responded today to Ivywood. They're having the program again, and I know Farron will do the same, so we'll participate. If the school calls us, we go. So if a school calls us for an event, we will be there. Okay, budget needs beyond 2025. Patrol cars, that's reoccurring every year. Replacing of our in-car printers is due in 2026. Replacement of thermal imagers is 2027. Those are the thermal imagers that our officer on the night shift can use if we're looking for either a subject that fled on us or a missing person, night vision type glasses. Replacement of 911 software, 2027. Replacement of patrol car radios, 2028. The HVAC system replacement, the HVAC system in our building, I'm not sure that the proper size was ever installed in that part of the building, so that's definitely going to be an issue for us coming up.
That's true for the entire building. I think
Yeah.
they bought a cheap system, so.
Yeah. So
Doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody.
No, it's in poor shape. K-9 program. This is a program right now. If we need a K-9 officer to track a suspect to help with a missing person, we have to call other agencies to have a K-9 come in. We have had organizations in the community. The Lions Club has offered to pay for everything outside of the car. We would have to fund a vehicle. The vehicle is a little more expensive than a patrol vehicle. It's about $125,000 to outfit a K-9 vehicle. The program not only would work for that, there could be possible revenue with working with Drug Enforcement Administration and narcotics sniffs, as well as being out in the schools. So that's something that we'd like to add down the road. I think it would be very beneficial for us, and it's painful for me to ask for another agency for a K-9. Of course, they do offer it if they're working or if they're available, but I certainly think we could have our own. Police.
Chief, is that something that they give you, or you have to pay for the animal?
No, we would have to fund the animal.
I think you're
It's
talking about mutual aid, right? When you call up
Well, you said
Canton.
you feel bad having to ask for one.
Yeah, so we have to, if we have to track a missing person or a suspect, we have to call one of the other agencies and hope that one of the other agencies will have somebody work it. Traditionally, other agencies won't call in dogs, but if, for example, if Northville has a dog working, they generally would send it over and help us, or Canton or Livonia. But if we had our own dog, we would mobilize, we would call the dog in and have the dog handle, our
Yeah, and
business.
is there a cost? Like, do you know how much a dog
Yeah,
would
so a
cost,
dog,
training
so
and
all the
that?
costs for a dog are about just under 20,000. It's 18,000 for everything. That would be the dog, the training, the food, everything like that. The car is about 125,000. It's more expensive than a patrol vehicle because there has to be air conditioning unit in there for the dog, if the officer's on a run. A K-9 officer would be an existing officer position too, so I would not look to add another officer, but to train one of our current officers. K-9 units, I'm going to talk a little bit about drones in a minute. These are all ways that we can retain our police officers. We're down 4 police officers. Very difficult to retain police officers. We don't have pensions here. We have to fight against departments that have pensions, and a lot of them do. So by having these other opportunities, it gives the officers other opportunities to do things outside of their normal patrol duties. So that's K-9. Drone is another program. I've met with representatives from the University of Michigan. They have, and again, always looking to try to find a way to fund things without us paying for them. But they're applying for a grant. We're looking to join them in the grant. And I met with them about a month and a half ago, so we're looking at that. Again, the drone program will be we'd have to train pilots Our officers would be the pilots, but again, it gives officers, and we have interest. We have 2 officers that would be interested in being pilots. And then last, I just want to talk about police and fire preps. Our police and fire preps are 10 years old. This is the prep radio on my side here, the radios.
Okay, so let's,
Go ahead.
hold on, I want Bob to go back. Okay, so when we say, I'm teeing you up for this, so I want you to talk about the radio situation.
Okay.
Okay.
So our radio situation is the radios are end of life, both on the police and the fire side.
These are the handhelds.
Yeah, that's this right here, that I'm, the handheld radios. So we have, working with our partners at the fire department, we have representatives come in, and this project would be roughly $800,000 for both departments, for both police and fire. This is, this is one of those prices of doing business. We need prep radios. These radios are end of life. We would look, I've talked to the township supervisor about, and I know Elizabeth's working on some research about how we can fund this.
So why don't you, I'll take it from here. So this radio issue is nationwide, if not regional. And so every community, certainly in Wayne County that we talk to, is having the same issue right now, because these Motorola, I believe they're Motorola 800 megahertz radios, are all at end of life. They need to be replaced, and they can no longer be repaired. I understand they're no longer being serviced, or at least they're starting to reduce the level of service that they're providing. They're getting out of that program. And this is not unique to Plymouth Township. This is all the communities around here. As you know, we belong to the Conference of Western Wayne, and I know they've been researching this issue extensively. They're trying to get grants from the state and federal government to help cover this, and we would all benefit if we could get grants. However, when you're looking at grants for a region like Wayne County, we are considered a wealthy community. And so if there is any grant money that's out there, again, depends on the language of the grant, but more likely than not, the grant money is going to go to the communities that truly cannot afford it. And that's going to be your Inksters, Redford, Dearborn Heights, Ecorse, River Rouge, those guys. So we have to be sensitive to the fact that while we should always strive to get grant money for this, if we get it, that's gravy. That's wonderful. So I want to make it clear now, Chief, you have here replacement by 2028. I think we should probably be.
No, I'm sorry.
That's the patrol car.
That's the patrol
Patrol car radios? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So
These are right now.
no,
I mean,
this is a right now problem, and so don't be fooled by that. There is currently no money in this current budget, this current draft budget. There's no money for these radios because it is a very high ticket prospect. So we have asked Elizabeth Cutie and her staff, as well as police and fire, to investigate separate funding for these radios. This is a big ticket item, as expensive as a fire engine or a couple ambulances. And so my professional recommendation is that the board next year look at bonding for these radios, or some kind of a payment plan. I don't know if that would be a lease agreement. I don't know if that would be a buy lease or whatever. The details have to be fleshed out, but I think we have to look at this as a major capital acquisition, similar to a vehicle or a fire engine, and I think we have to, our debts right now are very low. We have, as a township, we have a ridiculously low debt in comparison to our neighbors. So this might be a good opportunity to look either at a bond or a payment plan where we could pay these radios off over a period of years. That also depends on the lifespan of the new radios. I don't want to spend, I would not want to see us spending money over 10 years for a radio that's going to be obsolete in 8 years, for example. So there's still a lot of research that needs to be done, but this is a matter of urgency, and I think that the incoming board next year needs to make some decisions on how we're going to cover this.
What is the state police using, or will be using? Can we follow on with them?
So the answer is, I'm not sure what model of radio they're using. I would imagine they're probably going with Motorola. I know they're on the 800 megahertz system. It's actually the state's system that we're all tied into. We would probably look at what they're doing and consider that, but we would make sure that whatever option we chose was right for us.
Well, if Motorola is exiting the business,
They're not exiting the business. It's the model of radio that we have is 10
oh,
years
it's just the
old.
model is changing.
Yes.
They're not exiting the business.
Correct. Yeah, Motorola is still kind of the leading player in this field. But it's just that our radios are 10 years old, and if you think about it, it's like, I mean, our prep radios are basically a computer. So we're running around with 10-year-old laptops that we're working with, so.
The only thing I'd add to the Conference of West Orleans is we did participate in that grant. I don't believe it was successful, but we did attempt to get all of our radios replaced in that, so. Any other questions on that page? Yes, sir, Mr. Stewart.
Well, first of all, Mr. Supervisor, thank you for forwarding the draft of our budget and the key points.
It's state law.
Well, I understand that, but I can be grateful. One, thank you for your professionalism the past 2.5 years administering this police department. I think we have the proper credit to former Chief Titterington for referring you. 2, school liaison officer. Kudos to Officer Szymanski showing up for open house and PTO at Farrand. 3, Smitherman being promoted, and there's a new school liaison officer on the horizon. And he will need to be acquainted with being an effective school liaison officer, which is in society today is like all important, because I just shudder to hear about another shooting at a school, and I'm the father of a 19-year-old elementary school teacher. Do something with the kids, like if you'd like to respond, get out and play basketball. Shoot baskets with them. And finally, oversight and training for certification, and I believe that has been provided by your Lieutenant Kudra. If he'd like to respond, that we're staying up to date with ongoing training. And I mean, everything I'm hearing, the additional burdens on police officers out there on the street, on the road, is just, it's overwhelming. Yeah. But I hope we're keeping our certification up too.
Yeah, I'll let the Assistant Chief answer that. One thing that I will tell you, John, is with the $30,000 that we're getting from the state, there are strings attached to that, right? There's certain training that has to be done. But we are an accredited agency, and part of the accredited agency, Assistant Chief, I'll let you kind of finish up on that, on the training.
Yeah, so there are 2 prongs, I think, to your question. So the first I'll touch upon is the accreditation process. October 1st starts our 3rd year in our reaccreditation period. So we were accredited in September of 2022. It was a 3-year period. We have to prove to the state of Michigan that we are meeting all of those standards. When we got accredited, it was, I think, 485 standards that we have to meet. We have to prove that we meet every single one of those every year. So we're kind of breathing a sigh of relief right now because we just finished all of our proofs for year 2. And October 1st, it's going to be a mad scramble to get all of our year 3 proofs. And then we're going to have our on-site assessments with our assessors. Next year, we'll do 2. We're going to do a mock assessment, which is our practice, where we get other accreditation managers from police departments to come in and beat us up and tell us everything we did wrong. And then we'll have a couple months to fix everything that they pointed out to us. And then we will have our actual on-site assessment. I'm aiming for July of 2025. And then we will go, hopefully, before the Accreditation Commission in September at the Fall Accreditation Conference in Mount Pleasant.
Who's the accrediting agency?
So it's actually the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police is who it's through. It's the Michigan, oh boy, I should know this. It's the I'll get it for you.
Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police?
Yeah, well, it's through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police.
So it's a branch of
I'll get
them.
it. Well, it's a commission that is made up of law enforcement professionals that have set what these standards are. It'll come to me once I stop talking about it, and then I'll chime back in. The second thing that I'll touch upon is the training that you mentioned. So Public Act 1 of 2023 was a state law that was passed where my wife's a teacher, right? And for those of you who have teachers in your families, they have continuing professional education that they are required to take in order to maintain their licensure. Police officers have a license to be a police officer. We were never mandated by the state prior to 2023 to do continuing professional education. Now, we had various different training that was required by the state that we did every year. But in 2023, they passed a state law. They're going to mandate this training. They didn't actually make us do it in 2023 because some particularly smaller police agencies pushed back and said, you're going to make us do all this training, but we have a very limited training budget, and you're not going to, how are we going to pay for this? So they worked out some funding. They gave us some funding in 2024, which was around $14,500, I think. And the funding that you get is based upon how many officers you have at the time that they ask you for that count. We had 29 at the time, so that's why we got $14,500. For 2025, they're actually doubling the amount of continuing professional education that they're going to require us to do. So they're doubling that funding. And we are anticipating $30,000 from the state because we're hoping that we will get our number up to 30 officers when they do ask us to give them our count, our current head count of sworn law enforcement officers. It could be a little more, it could be a little less, depending on what our staffing level is at that time. And if you're going to ask me what is the requirements, I don't know because they haven't told us yet what particular training classes they're going to require. But I'm going to assume it's dealing with individuals in mental health crisis. It's, there'll probably be some community-based policing training in there. There will be bias-based policing training, some mental health awareness type classes for our staff. It's all good training. Much of it, we do. A lot of them are accreditation requirements anyway. But they're going to provide us a lot of funding, which is going to allow us to really expand our training, which is good because more training, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
But you're constantly doing training, you do legal updates.
We are constantly doing training.
It's a constant ongoing thing that's been
Some of
done
it's
all year long.
online, some of it's in person.
Right.
Our officers have more training today than they've ever had. One of the issues we have with that, it's fantastic and it's needed, but every time we have a training day, officers are pulled off the road. So we have less officers on the road for the training. But again, as I mentioned to you, failure to train, failure to supervise. Failure to train is another issue that causes a lot of litigation. So by being accredited, by being ahead of the curve, we're already getting that training. Our officers are getting that. I can assure you they're getting everything that is mandated, so. And
it's now come to me. The accreditation is governed by the Michigan Accreditation Commission, and that's overseen by the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police.
Michigan Accreditation Association?
Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. So MLEAC is the abbreviation.
Any other questions for the chief?
No, thank you.
All righty, very
all right,
good.
very good. I want to thank the board for your time. I'm sorry, I know I'm last. I'm sorry I was long-winded, but thank you for looking at this budget, and I believe this budget will give us the assets and resources we need to give the level of support to our citizens that they deserve. So, thank you.
So the biggest risk to your budget is the prep radios for 2025. That's the biggest risk.
I would say yes.
The budget will explode.
Our share of those prep radios is around $500,000.
Yeah, it's 800 total, 500 for us, 300 for the fire department. Yeah.
So that's the biggest risk in both departments, I think.
Yes.
You always want to know the risks and the opportunities.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, chief.
Very good, thank you.
All right, public comment, 3 minutes. Bob, you gonna get the shot clock going there?
Yes. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Supervisor Heisey. Thank you, State staff, and citizens. My name is Sherry Underwood. I live on Rocker Avenue, and I wanted to give you a little bit of context. Tonight, I was driving home down Edward Hines Road, driving my little 40 miles an hour when a young male driver in a gray SUV came around me on the double yellow and came about this close to killing a motorcyclist. So that's the context. Thank you for running a great department. And when I called 911 to report this, I was kept local, and I was able to, without being shifted from one place to another, direct the dispatcher to exactly where that vehicle went and give them the license plate number. So thank you for running a tight ship.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate citizens coming forward because a lot of times people say, we don't want to bother you. We want those phone calls. We want to know you're our eyes and ears, so thank you.
You're welcome. I want to talk about a concern that I have about the Church of the Risen Christ and payment to them for renting their facility for our early elections. This came to my attention back in November. I very much oppose it. I got nothing against the Church of the Risen Christ. I went to holiday services there last year. So I tried to find the $50,000 line item in the budget. I couldn't find it. I think if it's just less than $50,000, that you don't have to really list it out. But I'm very concerned about this, and I'm going to request that in your next budget, you absolutely don't put this rental fee in. We have the Friendship Center. We have other places that we can use to do early voting. My concerns include a number of cities and townships that are directly around us have dealt with this problem of the early voting that we now face without spending that kind of money, namely Livonia and some other cities. Also, I'm concerned about the separation of church and state. It doesn't work for me that we have, that we're using a church. And finally, I was alerted to this by reading a news article by Jack Lessenberry, who has a lot more to say about it if anybody wants any more information. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is...
Please come to the podium. Please come to the podium.
And sign in.
Is there a sign-in sheet there, Denisa?
I'll give it to him.
Okay.
Sorry, this is my first time here.
That's okay. You can start talking now and you can sign in.
Oh, okay.
Talking.
So my name is Mike Weaver. I'm a resident in 9116 Oakview, and what I'm having a challenge is behind me in 9114 Northern Avenue. I have a rat infestation problem.
Yes.
I've killed about 13 rats within the 2 months. I'm concerned about people that have health concerns, people that have, I'm a disabled veteran, and if I contract something from these rats, I don't have long to live. For my 14 years service in the military, you can hand this to the folks here. Right here is the pictures of the rats. I've been reinforced the shed as advised by Mr. Atkins, and the rats have came back and just dug around the shed. The person behind me has a chicken, but there's the right to farm, and I've contacted the state agriculture to see and make sure this is properly maintained and constructed. I've spent about $1,000 on this. This is getting to be very time consuming. There are people that are getting chemotherapy, treatment in my area, some people as kids. It's getting to be a real problem. I was in the Army 14 years. I'm a registered X-ray tech with 3 years clinical experience, and a medical service officer 14 years in the U.S. Army. And all my deployments are helping people. We've never had to deal with rats. It's pretty sad that I've served my country and I come home to this as a veteran. I went to Mr. Atkins, and he keeps siding with this person. He keeps warning her. Well, sometimes there has to be a citation. There has to be accountability. I just find it kind of bad. If I was a captain in the U.S. Army, which I was, and under the Geneva Convention, if I ran a POW camp and it was infested with rats, I'd be fired or relieved of command. So I don't know why this has been tolerated so long. Rats have a gestation period of 21 days, and you have to really attack and really go after the problem. I'm just here to say I need your help. Can you please do something with the resident behind me and address the problem? It doesn't seem like what's working is really addressing it to curtail the rats, because they've dug around my shed, which is 8 by 10, and for something's keeping their food, weather, and shelter, right? So there's something there that's keeping them, and I don't know where they're getting in the chicken coop. I was a supply officer at the end of my military career, so I know a lot about it. I'm a buyer for the federal government. I purchased a lot of environmental services. I've worked at Selfridge Air National Guard Base, so I know what I'm dealing with, and I just really need your help. I don't know where you can go from here. I'm trying to work within the command of my township. I've been there since February. I put up $15,000 privacy fence in order to try to, not deal with what's overburdened there. But it seems to be effective, a hoarder, of things. You can keep cleaning up for 2 months, but the issue is the rats are still there. So there must be some type of service or something. We call it the fire department, because this is a hazard, right? People get bit by a rat. Someone contracted bubonic plague about 2 years ago in Colorado. So I see it's something with the health department, with the fire department and police. So I'm just asking for your help. I don't know what else to do.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, we've received all of your emails. You're very diligent in emailing us updates. Dan Atkins has been out to both of your houses repeatedly. You are correct that your neighbor is, I'm not sure how long she's going to be there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to violate HIPAA
Yeah, I
regulations or
understand that.
anything
It's
like that.
X-ray technician, yes.
But there's some health-related issues there. I know that she is still maintaining a chicken on her property, which she does have the right to do under state law. We have ticketed that homeowner in the past. That has been a long-standing issue for us. And I know that her daughter is now assisting her to try to clean up the property, both inside and out. I guess at this point, we are certainly not taking sides, and we're certainly not ignoring your concerns. We're trying to work with your neighbor as I think she's eventually going to transition away from that property. And hopefully the rat issue will go along with it. As we've told you, rats are attracted to a food source, and you've got a chicken coop behind your house, and that's obviously the source. And so we're working with you, we're working with the neighbor. We just ask for your patience and consideration.
Yeah, and just to add, why I'm concerned, because when I was in the military, I had to bury people that make it, right? I had to go back to the families and tell them the rains are blown all over.
Yeah.
So it's a concern.
I've had to bury police officers.
Yeah, so it's a concern of me that I see these children in the neighborhood, with their parents, and that's what I'm concerned about.
You should file a lawsuit under nuisance.
I understand. Yeah, that's one, right. But I'm here to work with the city and work with our elected officials here.
But that's one avenue.
Yeah, that's one avenue. But
I have a suggestion: is attack the rats in her yard. I know you can't do that, but that's what they should be doing.
Yes.
In their yard.
What we're doing.
With poison and traps.
And yes, and that's, I'm doing whatever I can to contribute, but, just for the well-being and safety, I don't want to see another parent bury a kid because it contracted something from a rat.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Anybody else?
Hi, guys. Bill Pine. I'm a 46-year township resident. I wanted to bring some constructive comments and suggestions on analysis here today. I've been coming here since February of 2023, primarily talking about analysis. One of you got it right away. 3 of you, I think, generally agree with the thoughts that I have. 3 of you probably don't. The point I wanted to make is for those of you who don't agree with the significance and importance of analysis, I believe that the impression of that is that it shows disdain for residents' questions, comments, and issues. And based on what's happened with the election season, I figured you might want to show some more interest now, so I'm here to bring some basic concepts and examples again. Basic concepts, and these are not all-inclusive, but things that may be helpful. You should put fundamentals before financing. I was really pleased to see that Bob waited on the bonding for the smart meters. I'll talk some more about that. That's kind of what Sandy Growth and Bob Miller were talking about with regard to the Elks. You should figure out, you don't figure out what you're going to spend and how you're going to get the money before you know whether or not the initiative is a sound. Second, unbundle, don't bundle. Please don't combine acceptable initiatives with unacceptable ones to try to slide the unacceptable ones through. Every initiative should be able to stand or fall on its own merit. Third, and this is probably the most significant, it's a mechanical one, analyze proposals based on quality, cost, and delivery. Using hard data on each of these categories for decision-making is basically analysis 101. Any competent business uses these criteria to decide whether ideas have merit, and the township should too. And finally, hard, verifiable data rules. Unsupported arm waving or personal interest ahead of actual proven data does the residents a disservice. Two current examples, which may be moot, but they're illustrative, are smart meters and ambulance transport services. In the case of smart meters, as I shared with you in June, the basic water meter replacement effort does need to be done subject to responsible sourcing, timing, and technical analysis. On the other hand, the automated piece is unsupported by actual financial data as opposed to assumptions. There are some very significant current questions about the reliability. There's significant uncertainty about the health risk, and most recently, there is an issue that says the current proposal may be for obsolete equipment. With regard to ambulance transport services, I shared with you in July, consideration for insourcing ambulance transport services to the Township Fire Department from the current longstanding service provider would degrade quality of responsiveness and possibly service and require significant township spending for a service that's currently free. In conclusion, if you were to approve programs like this that I used as examples without analysis, anything else like this, you theoretically could be spending millions of taxpayer dollars and degrade the service that we receive today. So it would be obviously irresponsible to do that, and a clear message to residents, but the plea to you guys is that hard data and associated analysis is a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Anyways, please show some personal sense.
Please, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Hi, Board. Mary Ann Adams, longtime resident of Plymouth Township. I hope that you take Kurt's advice tonight and not invest in technology that's soon going to be outdated, and that is the smart RFID water meters. If you read the data that's out there, the industry is not getting the precision that it needs from the smart RFID water meters, and they're quickly working to replace it with newer technology. So when you're looking at making that decision, I would follow Kurt's advice and not invest in outdated technology. Second, I'm here to follow up on the dismissal of the Northville Downs lawsuit, Kurt, that you said was being worked on. So can you tell me the date that that's being filed?
Actually, the parties have agreed to an extension. Mr. Cox is no longer handling the case. It's now being handled by a different law firm. I'm not sure what the strategy is there, other than the fact that Mr. Cox is a material witness in this case because he engaged in negotiations directly with the township without his clients being present. So it's been handed over to the Zausmer Kaufman law firm out of Detroit. And they're a very well-known law firm. And so there's been an extension. The attorneys have yet to file the motion to dismiss. And that's pretty much about all I can say at this point.
So are we going to get a dismissal? Are we going to file a dismissal?
We're going to file for a dismissal, yes.
So can you find out at the next meeting when that's going to be filed?
I will. If you ask the question, I'll try to answer it, but I don't control the timing of litigation in this matter. The attorneys handle that.
RMA.
Well, that's the attorney for the RMA.
Right, but so you don't control the attorneys.
I don't control the attorneys, or
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we're conferring on litigation
Well, it's just that
strategy.
you have indicated that it was being worked on, so I'm just following up on your last comment.
Yeah, it's being worked on, and I don't know what day it's going to be filed, but since there is now an extension in the case, maybe the parties will take advantage of that.
Okay.
How many weeks is the extension?
I don't know for sure. I think there was a date certain that was set.
I did not see any documentation relating to the extension last night. I was on Pacer last night and I didn't see any filing.
I'm sorry, but that's what my attorney told me earlier today, that there has been an
Okay,
extension.
I'll go back out to Pacer. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, getting up to board comments now, so I'll start it off. We have, our next meeting is going to be September 24th, and we'll be doing the general fund budget, DDA, and Brownfield Authority, maybe some of the other minor items, maybe. I don't know for sure about drug forfeiture, but that might be part of that as well that night. We do have some of you may remember, I think it was in 2017 or 2018, Independence Village went out for a bond, and there was a company, senior citizen facilities can bond for improvements, and there was this company out of Arizona that allowed them to issue bonds. And as part of that issuance process, the townships or the city, wherever these facilities are located, we have to approve that. There's no obligation to us. It's just it's a formality of the bond process that the community is aware and acquiesces with their issuance of these bonds. So at the next week's meeting, next time we meet, we're going to do a resolution to establish a public hearing for Independence Village, and then we'll vote on that because they're refinancing their bonds. That's the reason for this. So they're going to refinance their bonds, and then on October 4th, then we'll approve the transfer. And again,
And we did that before.
And we did it in 2017, or maybe it was 2018. So some of you may be unfamiliar with the history behind that. But Tom Colas from Miller Canfield, who handles our bond work, he will be here that night to help explain that again. And just to reiterate, there is no financial obligation or commitment or risk on our part. This is all part of the procedure that has been set up for these senior citizen bond operations. Tomorrow is September 11th, and we will be holding a remembrance ceremony down the street here at the First Responders, the Wayne County First Responders Memorial at 11 o'clock. We have retired Brigadier General Slocum is going to be our guest speaker, and we'll have presentations by the police and fire departments and the honor guard, and we'll have other remarks from folks. I'm probably stealing all of Ms. Buckley's thunder right now. Sorry.
Speaking,
So okay. Want to just remind people about that. Let me just see here. Some of you know, the board members are aware that I did send a letter off to EGLE, the State Department of Environmental Protection, last week, just asking where we stand, where does at all on the Salem Sewer Project. So as chairman of the Western Townships Utilities Authority, the sewer district, we have not been notified. We have not received any notice from anybody. That would include Showstack or their attorneys or lobbyists. There's been no contact with Watua. To my knowledge, there's been no contact with Northville or Canton Townships, and EGLE has been silent since the April 4th public hearing at Northridge. So I did send it wasn't a nasty letter, but it was certainly an inquisitive letter of EGLE, just asking where we are on this, and we'll hopefully get some kind of a response from them. So, okay, John Stewart.
Could we possibly reinstate the citizen comments at the beginning of the meeting?
Well,
Secondly, I want everyone to know that we're not voting on the final budget until December 10th. Am I not correct?
We have the budget, the state requires a public hearing, which would be held on November 12th. After that, the budget is not done until you say so. It's just that state law mandates that you have to have a budget by the end of the calendar year.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Buckley.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with, was it Sherry Anderson? Underwood, I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them, especially in the beginning with our wonderful police. I just wanted to clarify, maybe you haven't seen some of the meetings or any of the video footage, but Clerk Vorva's been over the early voting center quite often. He's explained this in a lot of detail. I've spoken in depth on why we're using Risen Christ over Friendship Station, and how valuable it is as a piece of the puzzle for this early voting that was voted into law for 9 days. But also you mentioned separation of church and state, and I just wanted to clarify again with the First Amendment ensures both that the government does not show preference to a certain religion and that the government does not take away an individual's ability to exercise religion. So most of our precincts actually for voting take place at church facilities. So we have Northridge, we have Church of the Nazarene, St. Kenneth, so it has nothing to do with the First Amendment on that.
I'm more concerned about the $50,000.
Okay. Yep, and Clerk Vorva can
Yeah.
go over that, like he's mentioned many times. And then with our Veterans Commission, we have a wonderful commissioner, Krista McKinley. She is a lieutenant colonel who's retired from the Marine Corps. Has been working with USA Hockey, in particular with Denise Ronayne. Amazing. We were able to collaborate with her on getting a veteran of the game for the hockey games. And so we have 36 of those coming up, starting in, I want to say in October. We're very excited about that. Nominations for those veterans can be done through me. So if you'd like to take a card, if you know a veteran that you would like to be honored at one of the hockey games, the Kroger, as well as our Veterans Commission, will be donating a ticket, a drink ticket, and another gift card in the bag there. They will have special seating. We're very proud of this collaboration. We're excited. Again, if you have nominations, because we have a lot of seats to fill. We know we could volunteer ourselves, us 9 commissioners as veterans, but everybody knows a veteran and would love to see that really get started right away. So, and that's it for me.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bob?
Last day to pay taxes without penalty is Monday, the 16th. If you have not paid them yet, I do not recommend mailing them. If they don't arrive by the 16th, it's a 3% penalty. So there's other ways to pay. You can pay online. There's a 24-hour drop box in front of the building, and the treasurer's office is open from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So get those taxes in. We need money. We sent out the sidewalk bills last week for the 23 sidewalks. There's been a normal amount of questions that have been raised on whether this is my responsibility or not. Not mine, I mean the homeowner. But that comes up with every cycle. So you can pay them by November 1st. If they're not paid by November 1st, then they go on the tax bills for over 5 years, 5 equal payments, interest-free, and they can be paid off at any time. So sometimes people have concerns if they have a mortgage, where they're going on their tax bills, but if that's the case, then pay them off. That was it, those 2 big things.
Okay, thank you. Jerry?
Yeah, thank you. And I do appreciate everyone's questions when it concerns elections, and it's a fundamental right. The public voted for the constitutional amendment to have these 9 days. In that constitutional amendment, there was no money provided for facilities to do these. Some communities have plenty of facilities in order to do these. Some places have bigger facilities than the township does. We have no facility that is available, that is township property, that is properly accessible and suited for the kind of voting that can potentially go on. And when you're doing these types of things, you have to plan on what might be the worst case scenario. You understand right now that in the past, I want to tell you, in the past, you always heard Republicans say, don't do absentee voting, don't do early voting, show up on election day and vote. Now you have all of the parties saying, use early voting. We want everyone to access early voting. So when you know that is the potential, you have to have a plan that will have a facility that is readily accessible. And if you read the law on this, there is a list of requirements that are required in the law, in the Constitution, that you have to consider for these locations. Accessibility to the majority of the people. That means more centrally located. Has to be handicap accessible to people. Has to be accessible to senior citizens, even if they're not handicapped. Maybe they have some mobility issues, but they're not an ADA requirement. If you look at the parking lot of the Friendship Station on the east side, it is very irregular. It floods. Matter of fact, at this last election, it rained all day and the parking lot was flooded. You don't have enough parking. You can't have senior citizens parking on a dirt road across the street, walking across the busy road that Trustee Stewart has always complained about. There's too much speeding going on there, and have someone get harmed. As a matter of fact, the law has changed where each one of the precincts had to be less than 2,999 people. That has been changed now to 5,000. In the future, should I be reelected this November, and I hope you do vote for me, the Friendship Station is not going to be a precinct at all. We're going to cut the number of precincts from 12 down to 6 or 7. And in this community, in the past, we always had one state rep, one county commissioner. Now we have split districts where we have two county commissioners and 2 reps. When you're deciding where the boundary lines are for these precincts, you have to take that into consideration to try to limit the number of split precincts, where one precinct, part of the precinct votes for one person and the other part votes for another person, and it makes it very confusing. So when you're doing this type of work, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. We have no facilities to do that. Both Bob and I went around and talked to other locations. We talked to other churches, and we couldn't find anything adequate for this go around. And so when we did talk with them, they said, yes, we have available, but we charge for this space. And they were making a lot more money for the charter school that was there than what we paid. So it was really fair market value for the facility that we were using. On top of those expenses, we had to put in video cameras. We had to put in a drop box. So this facility had a circular drive in which we could put a drop box on. It had room so that we could put in video cameras, and we had to spend thousands of dollars for this. The public voted for this without knowing how much is this going to cost. This is costing hundreds of millions of dollars across the state. So when people voted for this, they didn't pay attention that what it was going to cost or whether or not you had the facilities for it. It's mandated. It's in the Constitution. You have to perform. So when you're doing this, you've got to do it for a worst case scenario, because in a big election coming up, remember in 2020, we had 2,400 more people voting in that election than in 2016, and that was a high turnout for us. This could potentially be another one of those kind of record-setting events. You have to have a facility that can handle that. The Friendship Station cannot do that safely for the people, and that doesn't have an adequate parking. And in the future, it's not going to be a precinct at all. As a matter of fact, if I'm elected, we're going to change, and I'll tell you part of the plan right now, we're going to change from the schools into churches, because it's difficult to get into the schools during school years. When you had the presidential primary, you had to go take equipment there, lock it up while school's on. Now, the schools closed on election day, but they're open the next day. You got to go and pick the equipment up. There's always a problem with accessibility to the schools. Now, they're great people. They do a wonderful job, but we're going to have to move from there because it's just not a good fit for what we need. Churches on Mondays are not doing anything. On Tuesdays, they're not doing anything. On Wednesdays, they're not doing anything that we can have access to all this. So we're going to shrink the number of precincts down to 6 or 7, depending on how we can configure the two different state rep offices, the two separate county offices, but there's a lot that goes into this. It's just not willy-nilly, we just throw it out there. You've got to really plan this stuff out. So it was the best plan at the time for the time that we had to implement. So the implementation time was short. So you have to act and you have to have it. This is a fundamental right. This is not like anything else. You have to have accessibility to all these things. And if you read the law, there's a whole list of things that we have to comply with, and that best fit that at this time. Next year, there's not an election unless someone calls for it. And you have the 9 days voting only for state and federal elections. So if there's an election, let's say the school wants to call for a election for a bond issue or for something, or Schoolcraft does. That's not a state or federal election, and you don't have to have the 9 days. Some communities choose to have even longer time period. You can do more than 9 days. 9 days is the minimum. You could do more. I don't think that's necessary. But when we made this decision, we made it the best we could for the timelines that we had to set this all up. We could not change precincts in a presidential year. Imagine trying to change those precincts and then get notices out to 24,100 voters and have them show up at the right place. This was the best case scenario for this particular instance, this time. Now we've got all that equipment over there. If we don't go there, I've got to pull all that equipment out. It's got to go someplace else. And we don't have a facility for it. Northville Township has a larger facility and they have a walkout basement. We don't have a basement here. They have room for it. Canton has a large facility. Livonia has a large facility. We do not have a facility that is adequate, that meets all the needs as required by the constitutional amendment that over 60% of the people voted for in this community and across the state. So let's put that to rest. It's done. It was necessary. It was done appropriately. We voted on it. We talked it all over, and it was done appropriately. There's no conflict of this necessary of church and state separation. That's nonsense. That's not even in the Constitution anyway. There's a letter from Jefferson. And we use churches anyway for half of our voting precincts. So please, let it go.
All right. Okay, no. This is not going to be a debate. I'm sorry. I know you're new to the meetings. But you can talk to Jerry after the meeting, all you want. Audrey?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Chuck?
Yes. Nell Hydrogen, which may be coming to Plymouth Township. I've arranged for one of their executives to come here on September 26th at my Kiwanis Club to speak. All of you are invited. If you want lunch, you come at noon, but you have to tell me ahead of time, and it'll cost you $15. Otherwise, you come at 12:45, and you can hear the talk. We'll find out.
Can you send that in an email?
Pardon?
Can you send that in an email?
You want me to send it to
Or
the
you want
board?
me to write it down?
please.
Yeah, do you mind?
Okay, I'll do it.
I won't remember by tomorrow.
You don't? No, okay. September 26th, the Thursday. All right.
Okay. All set?
And you can come too if you want.
Are you all set?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Motion made by Mr. Stewart, seconded by Mr. Zorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.